Hey guys, I'm Daniel's son. Welcome to the channel, and we are back with Hoovie's Ferrari 456 V12 engine that we took out because it had a head gasket failure. Now we have the cylinder heads back from Martin Machining. We also have a box full of gaskets that we're going to be talking about. As you can see, we have a lot of work ahead of us. Also, I got some bad news, so let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, you guys definitely heard right. There is some bad news. I'm going to be talking about that here in a moment. But first, I want to show you the quantity of work that we have ahead of us. So you can see all these carts are full of parts, and they all have to go inside that car. So as you can see, we have the cylinder heads right here. They finally came back from Martin Machining, and he did an awesome job. But now, unfortunately, there are also the reason for the bad news. I'll show you here why in a second. As you can see, they look pretty much brand new. And like I said, Martin Machining did an awesome job. Now, usually we take heads to Martin Machining to get them rebuilt, but also to check for warpness. We had a head gasket failure, so in the car overheated a little bit, which tends to warp these aluminum heads. And we took it down to Martin Machining, and he told us that this one in particular was extremely warped to the point that we could have scrapped the head and have to get a new one. Now he decided to go ahead and cut it because he was able to, but he had to take off 20 thousandths of an inch. Now this side only had to be cut down 6 thousandths of an inch, so not too much. Something else that I want to talk about is basically where we left off in the last video of the engine. Basically, I was questioning if main caps were put on correctly, also the connecting rods were actually put on correctly in the right order, and I did read the manual, and yes, they are all good. Everything's good there, and we checked everything, so it's fine. So let me show you real quick what I mean. So if you look in here, let's start with the connecting rods. You can see that these are number 9, and then these over here are number 10. Usually you would kind of get like number 9, number 10, and so on, right? And then for the main caps right here, basically 1 starts at the back of the engine, and 7, and it ends at the front of the engine, which is kind of weird. I've always seen it the other way around, but yes, it's all good, it's all fine, so we are good to put it back together. Okay, so after the last video on this engine, I basically had to sit down, make a giant list of all the stuff that I needed to put this engine back together, and I gave it to Wizard. Wizard did his magic, and a box showed up. Okay, now I want to tell you guys that in that box it's only a few belts, some spark plugs, and a bunch of gaskets. Now, in there, it's $4,000 worth of parts, okay? $4 grand on some gaskets and belts and spark plugs, okay? It's insane. Now, I'm gonna be opening it up and showing you guys. So here are the head gaskets, and these are composite. So it's kind of a mixture of metal and this weird plastic, or I'm not quite sure what the material is, honestly. But basically, they are a little bit thicker, which should compensate for the cylinder head, hopefully. Okay, so obviously 2 of those. Now, right here we have a pan gasket. Okay, so like I said, a few belts. So we got some accessory belts, some new timing belts, which is we're gonna be needing. We got some valve cover gaskets. This is how Ferrari does them. You actually have to trim these corners here. You have to trim them so you can actually fit the gasket properly. It's kind of weird. I don't understand why they haven't changed that. Like, I don't know if they could come up with an updated gasket so you don't have to do that anymore. But yes, this is how they do them. Over here, we have some new tensioner bearings. These are, Ferrari ones. You can get some Hill Engineering brand, but these are the OEM ones, which we prefer. We got some 2 oil filters. So these are Ferrari oil filters. And yes, they are UFI from the factory. New thermostat. Pretty sure we're gonna need one of these. Some more gaskets. We got a lot of O-rings. Some radial seals for the camshafts. We got a rear main seal. Now, I don't know if you guys remembered, but that cam gear was also really loose, and you guys saw how that weird special nut was like beat up because somebody used a chisel to tighten it and to loosen it. But we got new nuts, okay? So we got brand new ones. This is how they're supposed to look. Also, you guys know about the keyway, about the woodroof key. We got 2 brand new ones, OEM. So that shouldn't be a problem anymore, and we shouldn't have loose timing. We got new bearings for the front plate coolant plug, the one that I stripped, general gaskets here and there, Ferrari spark plugs, 12 of them, and then one last well, actually a couple of gaskets here. So these are, this one's for the front cover. I couldn't save this one, unfortunately, and this one I forgot off the top of my head. I'll remember later. We also have a front main seal too. So we're gonna start with the block. We're gonna go ahead and put the oil sump, so we gotta clean it and all that stuff. Now before we do that, go ahead and like the video, subscribe. It really helps me out. You guys have been killing it, so I really appreciate it. So as you can see, the engine is on another table. It's a little bit more uncomfortable to work on, but unfortunately I did need that blue table for something else. It's actually over there. So this is Euro Asian Bob's 348. Now it's up here for its major service and a bunch of stuff that we need to take care of. And that's why I need the blue table, because that engine's coming out and I use that table. So we are gonna go ahead and just do a very light coating of black silicone. Now, why black silicone? We did have the right stuff. It's called Cat 4 or CAF 4, and unfortunately every time you buy that stuff it's always expired, and I've had bad luck with them. They leak. Now a bunch of the guys have been using different stuff. We prefer to use RTV just because that's what my teachers use and that's what Wizard prefers as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do a light film of RTV, because right here on the sealing surface with the oil sump there is no gasket. It's just a sealant, which is pretty normal for Ferrari. So we're just gonna go ahead and use that and it should be fine. Now, whenever you're applying any type of sealant, especially on a surface that only has sealant, you wanna make sure this is like completely free of oil. It has to be super clean so that sticks and it doesn't leak after, okay? Especially in something where I have to take the whole engine apart to get to. Now, I like to use microfiber rags with, you know, any type of solvent that'll clean properly and won't leave a residue. You might be wondering, why did I smear it with my finger? And the reason being is this is the way the factory taught me. So the factory just says smear it with your finger. We did it with the gearboxes, the DCT gearbox, and then my teachers, this is the way they taught me as well. Now again, some people might disagree with this stuff, and I get it. Go ahead, but this is the way that I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna follow the factory and my teachers. Because they've been the ones who've supplied results. Other people have told me this is stupid and you shouldn't do it this way, but again, they haven't provided any results. I'm just gonna go with the people who I trust. The engine is right side up again, so that way we can work in the front a little bit more comfortably, just so everything makes sense. And then obviously we can put the cylinder heads on top and check if they're actually any good. And then obviously put the clutch and all stuff back there. So on this step, we are gonna be working on the front cover. Now we have a gasket for it. We're gonna put the front cover on. Now I am gonna put the front main seal on the front cover first, because I don't really have a tool to install it after the front cover is on, because of this crankshaft, right? It sticks out too much. I don't really have a tool to set it, you know, to be able to set it in properly. Now, these have a couple of bearings. Those bearings go on after the cover. So after we put the cover on, we torque and everything, then we can, you know, tap those bearings in, push them in, whatever, and then we put the woodruff keys and the timing gears. Okay, so that was a lot of struggling to get those in. Now, obviously these are in and everything's installed, and the reason being is I like to concentrate, and I wasn't gonna be paying attention to the camera, and the phone was already dying, so I decided to just go ahead and kind of focus. So basically, I took the bearings, I took them over to the freezer, left them there for a couple of hours. In the meantime, I was doing something else. And then basically I had to take the cover back off. Luckily, the gasket is fine because I didn't use any sealant on that part of the gasket. So all I had to do was pull it off, and then I was able to basically press the bearings in when they were cold. It was a lot easier. And then when I put the cover back on, very carefully I had to tap those in, you know, one tap on one side, one tap on the other side until the whole thing went back in, and then I torqued it and got it all ready. But that's pretty much it. Pretty well, I guess not uneventful, but again, I wanted to pay attention because it's crucial. I don't want to mess it up trying to focus on filming and all that stuff. So I got it done. So now we're going to put the clutch in. So the actual clutch disc. We already got the flywheel down and torqued. Now, usually I run into trouble with centering tools. Luckily, we have this universal one. It should work just fine if we have the right fitting for it, and it's actually, you know, pretty secure in there. So that's good. Now, there are heat marks here. Obviously, we're not going to send this out to get redone. First of all, because the clutch is actually fairly new, and also we don't really have anybody to resurface these flywheels with the lip. So we're just going to leave it. It should be fine. If we ever have to drop the, you know, torque tube or whatever to do this again, it's not that difficult. So we're just going to go ahead and put it back together like it is. So now that we're finished here with the clutch, and that's all torqued out, now we're gonna put the heads on. Now, I have one of the head gaskets on here, and the reason being is, like, I am terrible at paying attention whenever I'm doing multiple things. So I did it off camera just to kind of just get the gasket in here, because you have to make sure that the word alto is on the top, like the gasket is facing the correct side. You gotta make sure all the holes line up so you're actually putting it correctly. So yes, I always want to make sure that I pay attention when I'm doing this stuff, because there's no turning back and I'm not going to be waiting a month for head gaskets. But yes, let's go ahead and put the other side on, you know, get that on, and then we're going to start getting the actual cylinder heads on. Now, these head gaskets are not perfect. They usually never are, at least around the bolt holes. So you kind of have to go in nice and slow. Now, also, sorry for the noise. Mr. D's out there, you know, Crazy D's equipment is out there working. So we're kind of sharing the space. So there might be a little bit of tractor noising and some yelling. So, okay, all lines up, all lines up. We're gonna go ahead and put the hardware on for the head. Now, there's a very important bit of information here. These threads and the face of the nut, the one that's going to be contacting the washer, they need to be lubricated. Reason being is that if you don't do that, when you torque the head down to the Ferrari specification, it will not be correct. Now, basically, whenever you don't use the grease, the resistance on the nut, when it's starting to tighten down, gets higher. So obviously you're going to hit that specification a lot sooner, before the nut actually goes all the way down, clamping the head down to the correct, I guess, clamping force or something. I'm sorry, I am terrible at explaining stuff like this, but I'm definitely trying to, just because it's a very important bit here that could have caused the original problem on the head, for it failing, not being torqued correctly. to keep things clean, I'm gonna put the grease on the nut. So basically I'm just gonna scoop it in there just so it gets on the threads, and I'm gonna put it on the face of the nut itself. Okay, so that's the only two places that we really needed, because obviously the ones on the threads are gonna get on the actual stud, and the ones on the face of the nut are gonna be contacting the washer. No, we don't need grease on the other side of the washer, just on the top, because this is the only thing that's gonna be actually spinning on top of the washer. I went ahead and just ran them down with a wrench, following the pattern, and I also wrote it down on the heads, so that way we can just look at them, look at the paper, and just kind of confirm that we're doing it right. Now all I got to do is just go ahead and torque them. Now this is the correct tool to actually torque the heads down. So as you can see, it's just kind of this weird wrench. It kind of goes in like that. You put it at a 90-degree angle with your torque wrench. Now this wrench cannot be used to break them loose. Why? This right here will break. Don't ask me how I know, but yes, it is very weak. It's only meant for torquing, and that's, you know, we're only going to be using it for that. Wow, so it's starting to look like an engine again. Now, everything's torqued. It actually went pretty smoothly, so I'm really happy about that. You know, and obviously I'm excited to get this thing basically back in the car and running again. Now, obviously I'm going to be separating this in two videos. I don't know if I mentioned that already. So basically it's going to be the assembly of the engine, and then the following video is going to be putting it back in the car and getting it down the road and back to Hoovie. These are the tensioner. Actually, these are where the springs are, where you put the actual bearings on. Now, I took the bearings off real quick because I have to do it somewhere else. One of them, this is very weird. I have no idea why this happens, but basically one of these, you press it out or kind of just tap it out, and the other one just slides in and out perfectly fine. I've seen this on many Ferraris that have this style of tensioner for the timing belts, but yeah, it's so weird. One of these will just slide in, and the other one you have to pound it in. Yeah, now it won't work, but yeah. I've definitely encountered that before, so it's very weird. Now, the new bearings, the new ones that we got, they actually come with this plate up here. So we're going to be taking the nut off, all the mechanism inside. We're going to re-grease all that stuff and then put that new plate on top with the new bearings. Now, these are the old ones. Now, as you can see, usually what they do is just the grease starts to come out. Obviously, the more grease comes out of the bearing, the more likely it's going to fail. So, because obviously you're going to be having metal with metal rubbing, and it'll just basically kill the bearing and then obviously break your belt. It could seize, it could just start wobbling around. So yeah, definitely you got to be doing these services at least every 5 years. Now this is pretty cool right here. As you can see on that bolt for the tensioner, there's a little horse on it. It's a little Ferrari emblem on there. It's pretty cool. So now comes my least favorite part, and it's actually putting these cams in. It's a pain in the butt because they're so long, and as soon as you put them on and you put a cap on there and you start tightening it down, it'll start pushing on at least a set of springs, and you start feeling the tension. Now, unfortunately, these are hollow and they can snap. So you have to be very careful, and whenever you're tightening them down, you actually want to go a little bit more on those that are actually pushing down so the cam can go down as evenly as possible. So before we actually put the cams in, we have to start with these, okay? So this is number 1. And we're gonna start number 1 back here. And basically I numbered them 1 through 48. Yes, 48 of these little guys. So these are solid lifters. I talked about them in the last video. So we're just gonna clean them up a little bit and put a little bit of oil on them and drop in them. So for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and just time lapse this or cut it, I'm not sure yet. It's just basically me oiling and putting them in. But now this part's pretty simple, I guess. You know, basically I have to put this on the cam first, kind of line it up, make sure the radial seal is not pinched or folded or anything like that. Then I have to line it up here and kind of set the cam all in it, you know, all at the same time. It can be a little tricky, but it's not terrible. Now, obviously we have to make sure that we have oil in every journal. We have to do this for all 4 cams, and then we're gonna have to put the actual caps on there, and like I said, got to be careful while I tighten them. Just kind of go slow and stuff like that. It's going to be very time consuming, but obviously we don't want to snap one of these cams. So we finally have the camshafts all installed. Now, as you can see, and you remember from the previous video, I used paper to actually lock them down. And the reason is to set timing. As you can see all the lines line up perfectly, obviously on the other side as well. Now, this is something that's actually pretty cool. You can actually see that these cam gears, I'm just turning them around. They're not tight. They just kind of move. Now, I'll show you why I do that here in a minute, because it actually makes it easier to install the timing belt. But yes, we have this side all locked down and everything. I did off camera because you guys already know how I do that. Again, the lines here perfectly aligned, locked down so it doesn't move. And then obviously we still have to make sure that the piston is at top dead center. I'm going to be showing that as well. So we typically use this gauge right here. This is going to be a dial indicator. And we put it on number 1, and we're going to set it to top dead center. Now, the way that we do that is we'll see the needle start going one way, and then suddenly it'll kind of stop and start going the other way. Now, we want to stop. As soon as a needle stops, we know that we're at top dead center, and then we can proceed with putting the actual belt on. So we are ready to put the timing belt on. So we're going to start on this side, and this is just to show you real quick. So basically, we start at the bottom pulley, right? So now, again, these are still loose. And the reason being is I can actually just throw the belt on there. Just remember, the cams are locked. They're not moving. Only the gears are. So now as you can see, we got some slack here. The cam gears are moving. So we can actually turn the cam gear, put all the slack on this side. And I'm going to bring it close for this one. So right here, you see there's a lot of holes, right? And there's a lot of holes behind it as well. So basically what I do is I tension the belt, pulling on the pulley. And basically I take one of these pins, and I actually shove it in the hole that it fits. And then it'll lock it there. Same with the other one. And then I leave all the slack right here for the tensioner to get it. And then that's it. That's all you got to do. I also took care of a few things off camera. So as you saw, I did the timing belts, and then I actually turned the engine around twice. That's all good. Everything lines up perfectly, a lot better than before. And then up here, I decided to go ahead and install these passageways, these coolant passageways. This stuff is not fully installed yet because I still haven't installed a hose that goes down below there, so I'm not going to be able to reach it if I install this completely. Obviously the water pump, thermostat, all that stuff, I already had done that. This is nothing crazy, just the 2 passageways, these ones right here, and then I torqued them 10 Newton meters, nothing crazy. They do have gaskets, and then that's pretty much it. Now, I've decided to basically stop right here. This is where we're going to pretty much end the video. And you see that, there's no valve covers. And the reason is I want to see if Tyler wants them painted. I'm not sure yet. He might be like, oh, no, just leave them. But I'm not sure yet. But I think I might go ahead and paint them, make them look nice. I don't know if he wants them in red or in black, the original color. I'm pretty sure he's going to want them in black. So it actually looks good. So we're probably just going to leave it like that. Now, all the stuff in the front that I haven't installed, I will install that when the engine is in the car. Reason being, it's a lot easier. Stuff is out of the way, you know what I mean? So, well, it's not a lot easier to install stuff in the car. It's just easier to get the engine in. Okay, last time it was a pain in the butt, and I don't want to keep fighting that. And, this will give us a lot more clearance than we had before. So I'm going to end the video right here. Now, please go ahead and leave in the comments if you guys are interested in this type of work, just Ferrari work. I'm definitely trying to get some more into the channel. I'm trying to talk to some people and see if it'll work out. Now, I also have the Santa Fe content and the Audi content coming. I have a bunch of parts that I already bought I'm going to be making videos on that, definitely. Now, on that note, again, make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe. It really helps me out. I'm definitely going to be putting more content out there. It's just this video turned out into be a big project for me. Now, I am happy because it's all coming together, but hopefully the next video shouldn't take this long. Now I'm back in a schedule. So now, again, as always, I really appreciate you guys watching. So thank you.